The sky had been wrong for days. Not stormy, not rainy, just heavy. Clouds hung low like bruises that never healed. And when the wind moved through the trees, it sounded like something whispering through teeth. In a small cabin at the edge of the forest, a woodcutter sat at a table with his wife. Between them was a loaf of bread, thin as a promise, and beside the fire, 2 children listened without moving. Hansel, the older one, held his sister's hand. Gretel's fingers were cold, even near the flames. They heard their stepmother's voice, low and sharp. "We cannot feed them," she said. "Not with the sky like this." The woodcutter's shoulders sank. "I am their father," he whispered. "And they will be your ghosts," the woman answered. "If you keep them." Silence filled the cabin like smoke. Hansel did not cry. He did not speak. He only looked down at the floor and memorized the sound of his father's breathing, because it sounded like it might break. The next morning, the father woke the children early. "We're going to gather wood," he said. Gretel smiled a little, because she still believed mornings meant safety, but Hansel noticed his father would not meet his eyes. As they walked into the forest, Hansel slipped behind once, twice. Each time, he dropped a small white pebble from his pocket. Moonstones, cold little stars he had gathered the previous day while out searching for rabbits with his sister. The trees grew thicker. The light grew thinner. The father stopped. He piled sticks into a bundle, hands shaking. "Wait here," he told them. "I will return." Then he walked away, and the forest swallowed him like it had been hungry. Gretel waited until her lips turned pale. "Hansel," she whispered, "he's coming back, right?" Hansel didn't answer. He took her hand and followed the moonstones home, one by one, like stepping across a river that wanted them. When they returned, their stepmother's face tightened, not with relief, with disappointment. That night the stepmother locked the door. Hansel heard the bolt slide into place. He went to the window. The moon was dim. The sky was too low, and the pebbles outside looked like dead eyes in the dirt. He could not gather more. In the morning, the stepmother gave them each a piece of bread, not a meal, a goodbye. They walked into the forest again, deeper this time. The trees leaned inward like they were listening. Hansel broke his bread into crumbs and dropped them behind him, careful and quiet. Gretel watched him. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Making a way back," he said. But the forest was alive with hunger too. Birds swept down like shadows with wings. They pecked the crumbs away as fast as he dropped them. The trail vanished. The children walked until their feet stopped feeling like their own. The father built another pile of sticks. His hands trembled worse this time. He looked at them. His eyes were wet, but his voice was empty. "Wait here," he said again. "I will return." And then he left, and did not return, not even as an echo. The forest changed when the sun fell. It became a different world. Branches cracked like bones. Wind crawled along the ground. The sky pressed down like a lid. Gretel began to cry softly. "I'm tired," she said. Hansel pulled her close. "We'll keep walking," he whispered, though he didn't know where. They walked until their legs shook, until the darkness became soft and strange, until the cold entered their sleeves and stayed there. Then, through the trees, they smelled something impossible. Warm sugar, spice, fresh bread. Gretel's head lifted like a flower turning toward light. Hansel, she whispered, do you smell that? He did, and his stomach answered with pain. They pushed through the last line of trees and saw it. A house made of gingerbread, windows of clear candy, roof tiles dusted in white sugar like snow that didn't burn. It looked like a dream built by starving children. It looked like mercy. Gretel laughed once, small and broken. Hansel reached out and touched the wall. It was warm, not warm like the sun, warm like a mouth. They ate without thinking, without asking. They tore off pieces of sweetness and swallowed them like hope. And behind them, the door creaked open. She did not step out like a monster. She stepped out like a grandmother, small, bent, wrapped in a shawl the color of old smoke. Her voice was soft as bread. Poor little lambs, she said. Who left you in the cold? Gretel froze. Hansel stepped forward, crumbs of sugar on his lips. The witch smiled wider. Come inside, she said. I have soup. Her eyes shone like glass in firelight, and the children followed her, because hunger makes you polite, because cold makes you trust anything warm. Inside, the air smelled sweeter than it should. The walls were too clean, the shadows were too long. The witch fed them broth that tasted like sleep. Hansel's eyelids grew heavy. Gretel swayed on her feet. The witch watched them like someone watching candles burn down. Then she clapped her hands once. The sound was sharp, like a trap snapping shut. Hansel blinked and found himself behind iron bars. A cage, a pantry, a place where children could be stored like food. Gretel screamed and ran to him, but the witch grabbed her wrist. Not you, the witch murmured. You will work. Gretel shook and cried and begged, but the witch only smiled. Soon, she whispered to Hansel, you will be fat enough to be worth the fire. Days passed in a blur of cold sweetness. Gretel was forced to sweep, to stir, to carry heavy pots that smelled like cinnamon and something darker underneath. Hansel grew weaker, not stronger, because the food never truly fed him. It only kept him wanting. The witch came each day and demanded he hold out his finger. Hansel held out a thin bone instead. The witch squinted, angry. Still too small, she hissed. But her patience was thinning like ice. Outside, the wind grew louder. The sky pressed lower. And at night, Gretel heard something strange. Not footsteps, not the witch, but the house, creaking like it was breathing. One evening, the witch's voice sharpened. Enough, she said. She dragged Gretel toward the oven. Its mouth was black. Its heat was real. Light it, the witch ordered. Gretel's hands trembled as she opened the iron door. Warmth rushed out, so strong it made her dizzy. For the first time in days, her fingers didn't hurt. The witch leaned close. Climb in, she said sweetly. See if it is hot enough. Gretel stared at the dark inside. She remembered her mother's hands, her father's voice, the crumbs eaten by birds. She remembered how the world had stopped caring. And she realized something. The witch was not the forest. The witch was not the sky. The witch was just what hunger becomes when it learns your name. Gretel turned. I don't know how, she whispered. The witch snarled. Fool girl, move. She leaned forward, and Gretel shoved her hard. The witch fell into the oven's mouth like a shadow being swallowed by fire. Gretel slammed the door. The witch screamed once. Then the sound stopped, and the house became quiet. Too quiet, like something had ended, or like something had been pretending. Gretel ran to Hansel. She pulled at the cage door until her nails split. The lock snapped loose like rotten wood. Hansel stumbled out. His lips were blue. His eyes were glassy. He looked at her as if she were far away. "We're safe," Gretel sobbed. "We're safe now." But the room tilted. The sweetness in the air began to fade. The walls seemed less bright, less real. The candy windows turned dull. The gingerbread smell disappeared like smoke. Gretel blinked hard, and suddenly she understood. There was no warmth in the house. Not truly. There was only the idea of warmth. A dream the mind builds when the body is freezing. The oven wasn't magic. It was only a place that still held heat. The witch wasn't a spellcaster. She was a face hunger gave itself, a story the coal told them, so they would keep moving. Gretel grabbed Hansel's hand. "Come on," she whispered. "Please." They stumbled outside. But the forest was not a forest anymore. It was a white field of death, snow, ice, wind that cut like knives. The house behind them was not gingerbread. It was wood, half collapsed, abandoned. A broken hunting shack with frost on its roof. No candy, no sugar. Only a door hanging open like a jaw. Hansel took one step, then another. Then he fell. Gretel dropped beside him. "Hansel," she cried. His eyes fluttered. He tried to speak, but the cold had already taken his voice. He looked at her one last time, and his gaze said something older than words. "I'm sorry. I'm tired. I can't." Gretel shook him. She begged. She screamed into the falling sky, but the sky did not answer. The snow kept coming, soft and endless, like ash. When Gretel woke again, she was inside a different house. A real house, warm. A fire crackled in the hearth. A blanket covered her shoulders. A man sat nearby, face lined like old bark. A woman held a bowl of soup, hands trembling. They looked at her the way people look at miracles they don't deserve. The man spoke softly. "We found you near the forest," he said, half buried in snow. The woman's eyes filled with tears. "We lost our little boy last winter," she whispered. "Famine took him." Gretel tried to sit up. "Hansel," she croaked. "My brother." The man's face fell. He didn't need to say it. The silence said it for him. Gretel turned her face away and cried until her chest hurt. The woman sat beside her and held her hand. "You don't have to go back," she whispered. "Not to a place that threw you away." Gretel trembled. Not from cold this time, from the weight of being the one left alive. Outside the window, the sky was still bruised, still wrung, still falling. But inside that house, for the first time in her life, someone stayed. And that is why elders still tell this story. When the winter grows quiet and the cupboards grow empty, be careful what hunger makes you believe. Be careful what warmth asks you to trade, because the sweetest house in the forest may not be made of candy at all. It may be made of dreaming, And when the sky is falling, sometimes the cruelest magic is simply surviving.